You know a game is special when you finish it, put the controller down, and still can't stop thinking about it weeks later. The story stays with you, the characters feel real, and somehow no other game feels quite the same afterward. These are 18 games that did exactly that. Let's get into it. Ghost of Tsushima. There's a specific kind of peace that comes from riding a horse through a field of tall grass while golden light pours across the hills, and this game serves that feeling up constantly, almost generously, like it wants you to slow down and just exist in it for a while. Ghost of Tsushima puts you on a Japanese island under Mongol invasion, playing as Jin Sakai, a samurai whose rigid code of honor starts cracking under the pressure of an enemy that doesn't fight by any rules he was trained for. That internal conflict gives the story something to chew on beyond just the battles, because every choice Jin makes toward becoming the ghost, toward fighting dirty to protect his people, costs him something. The combat reflects that tension beautifully. It's precise and deliberate, built around reading your enemy and switching stances to exploit their weaknesses rather than just overwhelming them. A single duel can feel more tense and satisfying than an entire boss fight in other games. And then there's how the world guides you, wind bending through the grass to point you toward your destination, fireflies drifting toward hidden shrines, nature itself acting as your compass. It sounds like a small thing, but it changes exploration entirely, making the whole island feel like something to move through with intention rather than just a map to click across. Black Myth Wukong. There's a moment early on where you face a boss that moves faster than anything you're prepared for, and instead of feeling frustrated, you feel something closer to awe, because everything happening on screen looks so impossibly good that losing almost doesn't register as a failure. Black Myth Wukong earns that reaction constantly. Drawn from the legendary Chinese tale of the Monkey King, you play as the Destined One, a warrior retracing Sun Wukong's journey through a world soaked in mythology, wonder, and genuine danger. The combat is fast and deeply satisfying once it opens up, built around dodging, timing transformations, and cycling through abilities that let you reshape how each encounter plays out. You can freeze enemies mid-attack, transform into defeated bosses, and turn their own moves against new ones, or go purely aggressive with staff combos that chain together with a fluidity that rarely feels accidental. Every boss fight feels like its own event, something designed with personality and visual ambition that makes you want to study it even while it's destroying you. The environments carry that same level of care. Ancient temples, bamboo forests, frozen mountain passes, each area feeling distinctly realized rather than aesthetically interchangeable. This is a game that announced an entirely new voice in the action genre, built on a mythology that deserves far more attention than it typically gets outside its home culture. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. There's a particular kind of satisfaction that comes from solving something with your own eyes instead of your trigger finger, and that's exactly the feeling the Great Circle builds its entire identity around. You step into the boots of Indiana Jones, but this isn't the swaggering Tomb Raider with a machine gun you might expect. Here, he's an archaeologist first, someone who reads the room, studies the carvings, and trusts his instincts over his fists. Combat exists, sure, but it's almost an afterthought next to the real draw, which is wandering through crumbling ruins and ancient sites that feel like they actually have history baked into every wall. I kept finding myself slowing down, not because the game forced me to, but because I wanted to look closer at a hieroglyph or test a theory about how some mechanism worked before moving on. That's the kind of immersion that's hard to fake. People throw around comparisons to Uncharted, and yeah, there's some shared DNA. But where that series sprints toward the next explosion, this one wants you to breathe, observe, and think. It rewards curiosity over reflexes, and once that clicks, you stop chasing objectives and start genuinely exploring. If you've ever wanted a game that treats you like the smartest person in the room instead of the strongest, this one earns that feeling honestly, one puzzle at a time.
Gotcha! Yes? Huh?
Marvel's Spider-Man 2.
All right, what do we got?
There are games you pick up to unwind and games you pick up to feel something, and every now and then one comes along that manages both at once without breaking a sweat. Marvel's Spider-Man 2 is that kind of game. Swinging through New York never gets old here, and that's not a small thing to pull off after two previous entries already set a high bar. The traversal feels faster, smoother, more connected to the city below, and the wingsuit that lets you glide between buildings adds a layer of freedom that changes how you think about getting from one place to another. You play as both Peter Parker and Miles Morales, and the game is smart about using that split to tell two stories running in parallel, one about a hero struggling to hold his life together, and another about a younger one figuring out who he wants to be. The combat pulls from both characters' distinct ability sets and lets you lean into whichever style clicks for you. Peter's symbiote abilities hit with a brutality that feels genuinely different from his usual toolkit, and Miles' bioelectric powers have a rhythm and flair that make crowd control feel almost creative. The story swings hard emotionally in its final act in ways that land because the quieter character moments earlier actually did the work to earn them.
Sorry! Had to strike while the iron was hot!
This is all part of a prophecy!
Heads up!
Come fire!
There's no stopping the prophecy!
Don't let him web you! You won't live to see Crimson out!
S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2. Heart of Chornobyl. Most games want you to feel powerful. This one wants you to feel small, and it commits to that feeling with a ruthlessness that's genuinely rare. S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 drops you into the Chernobyl exclusion zone, a poisoned stretch of land that operates by its own broken logic where radiation bleeds through the ground. Anomalies warp reality without warning, and the thing that kills you is just as likely to be the environment as another person. You're not a hero here, you're a stalker, a scavenger with a gun, and just enough information to be dangerous to yourself. Resources run thin constantly. A firefight you walk away from injured can spiral into a death sentence an hour later if you can't find the right supplies. And the zone never stops feeling hostile, even in the quiet stretches, especially in the quiet stretches, because silence here almost always means something is about to go wrong. That oppressive atmosphere is what makes every small victory feel enormous. Finding shelter after a brutal stretch, trading for bullets you desperately need, surviving an encounter that had no business going your way. The world is dense with factions, lore, and side stories that reward players willing to dig. It's not comfortable or welcoming, but if you let it pull you in, it gets under your skin in ways that linger long after you stop playing. God of War Ragnarök. The hardest thing any sequel can do is follow up a story that already felt complete. God of War 2018 ended in a place that felt earned, almost final, and yet Ragnarök walks through that door and finds more to say. The relationship between Kratos and Atreus has shifted. Atreus is older now, pushier, hungry to understand his destiny in ways that put him on a collision course with a father who spent his whole life trying to outrun fate. That friction is where the story gets genuinely interesting. It's not just about fighting gods or stopping the apocalypse, though it does plenty of both. It's about a father and son who love each other and still can't agree on what that love should look like. The combat builds on the first game's foundation rather than tearing it down, which is the right call. You still have the axe, still have the blades, but new abilities and enemy variety give fights a freshness that stops things feeling like a retread. What hit me hardest was how emotionally generous the whole thing is toward its characters, even the antagonists. It earns its big moments because it takes time to build toward them, never rushing past quiet scenes that make the loud ones land. By the end, you feel the full weight of everything Kratos has been carrying for so long.
Way over your head! Slow down! Don't you know who I am? I am the one of the Aesir, the herald of Ragnarök! Slow it down. I am going to find that little mongrel of yours and beat his face into a pulp. Enough! Only one of us is walking away from this. And if sure it will not be you.
Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. What would it actually feel like to be nobody in a medieval world, not a chosen warrior, not a destined hero, just a young man with no particular skills trying to survive in a place that has no interest in making things easy for you? That's the question Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 spends its entire runtime answering, and the answer is humbling in a way that most games simply aren't willing to commit to. Henry is not exceptional. He can't read at the start, his sword fighting is clumsy, he gets drunk if he has too much ale, and the world around him operates on its own schedule with complete indifference to what you want to do next. Combat especially takes time to click. It's not a system you can button mash your way through. Timing, footwork, feints, and reading your opponent all matter, and losing an early duel badly because you haven't earned the skill yet feels appropriately humiliating. But when that system eventually opens up, when the fights start flowing and Henry starts becoming genuinely capable, the progression feels real in a way that stat numbers on a screen never quite capture. The world itself is thick with period detail, dirty and alive and morally complicated. This is medieval life without the fantasy gloss, and for players willing to meet it on its own terms, it rewards that patience generously.
You can't stand up to this! Useless!
Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Some games give you a world and a path, but every now and then one comes along that just opens the door and says go anywhere, do anything, and figure the rest out yourself. Assassin's Creed Odyssey is that kind of game, set in ancient Greece across islands, mountains, and open seas that genuinely feel like they could go on forever. You play as either Alexios or Cassandra, a mercenary wandering a land that doesn't care much about your survival, and that scrappy outsider energy shapes everything. The RPG system here is more flexible than most give it credit for. You're not locked into a single playstyle. You can build towards stealth, lean into raw combat, mix abilities mid-playthrough, and actually feel the difference in how missions unfold depending on how you've shaped your character. I remember sailing between islands during a random evening session and realizing 2 hours had passed without me touching the main story once because the world kept presenting new questions to chase down. A side quest would hint at a ruin. The ruin would lead to a cultist, the cultist would unravel something bigger. That layered sense of discovery never dried up. And the landscapes themselves, white cliffs, olive groves, ancient theaters under golden light, make wandering feel like its own reward even when nothing explodes.
Hey, keeping my eye on you!
That's the day. Shit! You know you can't.
Hogwarts Legacy. Every kid who ever read those books or sat through those films had the same quiet fantasy, walking those corridors, attending those classes, discovering what was hidden behind a portrait or beneath a moving staircase. Hogwarts Legacy actually delivers on that fantasy in a way that feels less like a game and more like a place you genuinely get to inhabit. You arrive as a new student with a mysterious connection to ancient magic, and from the moment you step into the castle, the sheer density of it is hard to shake. Rooms branch off into other rooms. Secrets hide in corners that look like dead ends. The castle rewards exploration with the same consistency as the best open-world games, except here the world is vertical, interior, and full of the specific magic that made people fall in love with this setting. Combat is more engaging than you'd expect, because combining spells, controlling momentum, and juggling multiple enemies creates a rhythm that feels distinctly yours after a few hours. The open world beyond the gates earns its place too. rolling Scottish highlands dotted with Hogsmeade, underground ruins, and creature sanctuaries worth finding, but it's always the castle that pulls you back. It's the reason this game works as well as it does, a childhood dream rendered with genuine care and enough depth to keep surprising you.
¿Ya vamos a otra aventura?
Detroit Become Human. What if the choices you made actually meant something, not in the vague way games usually promise that, but in a way where a decision in Chapter 3 quietly determines whether a character is even alive by Chapter 9? Detroit Become Human is built entirely around that question, and it takes it more seriously than almost anything else in the genre. You play across 3 android characters, Connor, Kara, and Marcus, each navigating a near-future Detroit where machines have become conscious and a society built on their labor is starting to crack. The branching is genuinely deep. Characters die permanently. Relationships shift based on how you've treated people across hours of prior interactions. Story threads that seem minor early on circle back with real consequences later. What makes it work beyond the mechanics is how the game refuses to make the right choice obvious. You're constantly weighing safety against principle, self-preservation against solidarity, and it never condescends by flashing a moral score at you. It trusts you to sit with the discomfort of your own decisions. Not everyone will love the pacing, which leans heavily into slow dramatic tension over action. But if you want a game that treats its story and characters with the same weight a good film would, this one delivers that completely, and the conversations it starts in your own head linger well past the credits.
Please, please, you gotta save my little girl. Wait. You're sending an android?
All right, ma'am. You need to go.
You can't do that. Why aren't you sending a real person?
Batman Arkham City. There's a moment in every great Batman game where the controller disappears and you stop playing the character and start feeling like you are him, and this one finds that moment faster than almost anything else out there. You're dropped into a walled-off slice of Gotham that's been handed over to its worst criminals, and the whole city practically breathes dread from every rooftop. The brilliance is in the combat, which looks deceptively simple. Just punches, counters, and gadgets. But the moment it clicks, it turns into this hypnotic rhythm where you're reading incoming attacks, timing counters, and weaving gadgets into a beatdown that never feels scripted. You're never just mashing a single button and hoping for the best, you're constantly reacting, adjusting, and controlling the pace of a fight that could spiral out of control in seconds if you let your guard down. And the world around all that combat earns its reputation too. Every shadow, every flickering sign, every snowed-over rooftop makes Arkham City feel like a place that's hostile to anyone who isn't wearing a cape. The rogues gallery threaded through the story keeps raising the stakes, with each villain pulling the plot in a slightly different, more dangerous direction. If you've ever wanted combat that rewards patience and precision over panic, this is where that fantasy comes alive.
perimeter wall is out of bounds to all residents of Arkham City.
Uncharted 4. A Thief's End. There's something bittersweet about watching a hero try to walk away from the life that defined him, only to get pulled right back into it. Nathan Drake has settled down, traded danger for a quiet domestic routine, and then his brother shows up with one impossible last job, and just like that, the old fire is back. What gets me about A Thief's End is how much it feels like sitting through a great film rather than playing through a checklist of missions. The story breathes. Quiet conversations between brothers carry just as much weight as the set pieces, and when the action finally hits, it hits hard because the game earns those moments instead of just throwing them at you. The pacing is honestly the secret weapon here. You'll spend a calm stretch climbing a cliffside or exploring some half-buried ruin, soaking in the scenery. Then suddenly you're sliding down a collapsing building while bullets fly past your head, and somehow the shift never feels jarring. Every chase, every leap, every desperate scramble for a handhold moves with this fluid, almost choreographed grace that makes you feel like you're watching yourself in a blockbuster rather than just mashing buttons. It's not really about the treasure by the end. It's about two brothers, one last impossible bet, and whether either of them can actually let it go.
Oh, Christ. Get out of the way!
I'm on you!
Whoa, whoa, whoa! Careful! This goddamn fucker! Crap! Jump! Please don't run anyone over! Sorry! We gotta shake that truck! Working on it! Hey, that was clean long. Hey, just wash it again! Hang on! Where the hell are you going? You're the one who said just head down! See! Coming through! Well, this is really a great idea, Nate. Do you want to drive? Oh, you're doing just fine. See? I got it. Crap! These guys don't give up. Okay, through here. Oh, stop!
Grand Theft Auto 5. Most open-world games give you one character and one perspective, one way of seeing the chaos unfold. Grand Theft Auto 5 looked at that formula and decided 3 was better. You've got Michael, the retired criminal rotting inside his own success, Franklin, a street-level hustler looking for a way up, and Trevor, who is something else entirely, a force of nature that the game barely even tries to contain. Switching between them isn't just a gimmick, it genuinely changes the texture of how the story feels because each character has a completely different relationship with the world they all share. What I kept noticing was how alive Los Santos feels regardless of what you're doing in it. You can follow the heist missions, which are genuinely great, and feel the tension of a job coming together or falling apart. Or you can just drive through the city at night with music on and find yourself getting absorbed by the sheer density of it. The radio chatter, the pedestrians arguing, the planes crossing overhead. The 3-lead structure also means the story swings tonally in ways a single protagonist couldn't manage. Dark and cynical one moment, completely absurd the next, and somehow it all holds together. It's a game that understands that freedom isn't just about what you can do, it's about who you get to be while you're doing it.
Bullshit! Oh, I am so sorry! Miss me!
Going through the big J? I'm kind of like couch surfing at the moment, so leave it deep.
The Last of Us Part 1. Some stories don't announce themselves. They just start quietly, let you settle in, and then before you realize what's happening, they've got their hooks so deep in you that putting the controller down feels like a betrayal. The Last of Us does exactly that. On the surface, it's a survival game, and yes, you play as Joel, a man hardened by loss, escorting a teenage girl named Ellie across a broken, overgrown country. But survival is almost secondary to what the game is really about, which is two people who don't particularly want to need each other slowly becoming each other's reason to keep going. The gameplay mirrors that emotional weight in ways that still impress me. Encounters are rarely loud or chaotic. Resources are scarce, enemies hit hard, and rushing is usually how you die. So you move carefully, listen, improvise, and that low-level tension never fully lifts even in the quieter stretches. What gets me most is how the game handles silence. A half-conversation in an abandoned house, a moment where Joel and Ellie just exist in the same space without saying much, those beats carry more emotional charge than most games manage with full cutscenes. It never tries to dazzle you with scale or spectacle. It tells a human story about survival, grief, and the terrifying lengths people go to for the ones they love.
Down the hall. I bet we could cut through those classrooms. There's a path down this hallway.
Cyberpunk 2077. Imagine a city so dense, so loud, so relentlessly alive that just walking through it without any objective feels like an experience worth having. That's Night City, and it's genuinely unlike anywhere else in gaming. Neon bleeds into fog, corporate towers cast shadows over crumbling slums, and every district has its own personality, its own danger level, its own rhythm you pick up just by spending time there. You play as V, a mercenary trying to carve out a name in a world that chews people up for sport, and the story wastes no time pulling you into something much bigger and more personal than a simple job gone wrong. What surprised me most was how much flexibility the gameplay actually has. You can ghost through missions without being seen, hack environments and enemies from a distance, or go in loud and dismantle everything in your path. All three approaches feel genuinely supported rather than one being clearly superior. The characters you meet along the way also carry real weight, especially Judy, Panam, and Johnny Silverhand, who practically steals the whole game out from under you the longer he's around. Night City has flaws, rough edges that never quite smoothed out, but as a place to inhabit and a story to lose yourself in, it holds up in ways that genuinely surprised me. God of War. Nobody warned me that a game about a God of War would make me feel things about fatherhood. That's the quiet trick at the heart of this one. The thing it slips past your defenses before you even realize what's happening. You come in expecting brutal combat and Norse mythology, and you get both, but underneath all of it is a story about a man carrying grief and guilt he doesn't know how to put down, trying to raise a son he doesn't quite know how to love. Kratos is not the screaming rage machine from the older games. He's restrained, almost painfully so, and watching him struggle to open up to Atreus while the world throws impossibly dangerous things at both of them is where the real drama lives. The combat helps too, genuinely. That Leviathan axe has this weight to it that you can almost feel through the controller, and calling it back to your hand after a throw never stops being satisfying no matter how many hours in you are. But the thing I keep coming back to is the single unbroken camera shot that runs the entire game, no cuts, no loading screens hidden behind doors, just one continuous thread pulling you forward. It makes the whole journey feel immediate and personal in a way that's genuinely hard to shake after the credits roll. Elden Ring. Nobody holds your hand here. You drop into a world that has no interest in explaining itself, no waypoint telling you where to go, no tutorial walking you through the dangers ahead. The first few hours feel genuinely disorienting, like showing up late to a conversation in a language you don't quite speak yet. But that confusion is the point. The world is enormous and hostile, full of things that will destroy you, and learning to read it, to understand which paths are traps and which enemies you're simply not ready for, is where the real game lives. Every death teaches you something. Every boss you finally clear after a dozen attempts carries a weight that easier games cannot manufacture. I remember the exact moment a fight clicked, the pattern I'd been too panicked to see suddenly becoming obvious, and the relief that followed felt almost physical. The exploration feeds that same loop. You crest a hill expecting nothing and find a hidden underground city glowing with golden light, or stumble into a boss arena that sends you sprinting the other way. There are secrets buried inside secrets here, entire quest lines that never announce themselves, lore that rewards people willing to dig. This is a game that treats you like an adult capable of figuring things out without being told, and you feel that respect all the way through. Red Dead Redemption 2.
Between your eyes. Okay, tough guy.
If I start shooting, it's over for you.
There's a version of open-world games that treats the world as a backdrop, a pretty stage for missions to play out against. And then there's Red Dead Redemption 2, which treats the world like it actually exists, like it was alive before you arrived and will keep going long after you leave. You play as Arthur Morgan, an outlaw riding with a gang that's slowly running out of road in a country that's outgrowing men like him. And the game never lets you forget that tension. It's there in the way strangers eye you in town, in the way your camp gets quieter as the weeks pass, in the way Arthur himself starts questioning choices he never used to think twice about. I've spent long stretches doing nothing that would count as progress, just riding through fog at sunrise, watching animals scatter through tall grass, stopping to sketch in Arthur's journal. The world pulls you into that rhythm deliberately and then sucker punches you with a story beat you weren't braced for. That contrast is what makes the emotional payoff hit so hard later. Arthur is not the hero of a revenge saga or an origin story. He's just a man at the end of something trying to figure out what any of it was worth, and the game makes you feel every mile of that reckoning.
Warning me? Here's what I think. Well, you shouldn't have crawled out of your holes today.
You stop right where you are.
Oh, look at you. Pathetic.
You think you can just go wherever you want in Angelo Bronte's territory?
Hey, shut it.
Hey! Isn't this a friend? I think... well... maybe?
All right, simmer down.
Ha ha ha! That was...
Mr. Bronte won't be happy about that.
Let me give you some advice. Turn around. Walk out of here. Get far, far away.
I'll do worse than that if you don't stop squawking.
I said, get the hell out of my house. Now, you...
Ain't so tough now, are you?